I'm John Sasnick, and I'm putting together a short instructional video on how to install the cabling and wiring in the new HSC skincare unit.
The product has been removed from the shelves, and now we're ready to begin. The first step is to go down to the lower shelf and remove the box that's housing the cables and the power supply. If this is a 4-foot section that you're working on, please remember to remove the graphics that may be between each shelf so that don't get damaged. Lift up the lower shelf and pull out the base by lifting it up gently and pulling it forward.
The next step is to remove all the acrylic panels in the back of each tray by lifting up in the back and pulling it out.
Those wires.
Once the panels are out, the first step is to install the power supply in the very bottom shelf, on the deck shelf. It goes all the way up against the back of the peg wall. Step in connecting the electrical wires to the lit shelves is to use a long jumper cable into the power supply. Slide the power supply all the way back to the peg wall and feed the cable up through the back of the shelf. Then you'll plug this long jumper cable into one of the positions in the back of the shelf, like so. The next step in the connection process is to take the long wiring harness and insert it from the top of the back shelf down to the bottom shelf. This is a universal wiring harness, so it can go in either way. You may have to push on the back of the peg wall to get it to go between the shelves. Keep feeding it down until you get the bottom section to the lower shelf. We're going to insert the longer section of cabling on the wiring harness to the header. The second shorter wire is going to hook into the back of the shelf. And you just work your way down, inserting the smaller wire into the plug on the back of the shelf. completing the last one in the lower shelf next to the long jumper wire that's coming from the power supply. If this is an 8-foot section that you're installing, you're going to need these small jumper wires to connect the headers together at this point in the back, and also the two shelves. And you can do that by lifting up the other acrylic panel on the other side and expose the plugs that you're going to use to connect these two wires. And this is how it's done. And then you can put the plastic acrylic panel back down in there once that connection is made. The other jumper is for the header, and it goes in the back of the header like this. To connect the large and small graphic boxes, use the large jumper cable and insert it into an alternate position in the back of the shelf, like so. Grab your graphic box. You'll see the connection on the back of the inside of the graphic box, where to connect the cable, and insert the cable like so. Continue this process with the long jumper cables. After the graphic boxes are installed and plugged in on each shelf, then slide the white acrylic panel to the back of the shelf and put it back into position, making sure that the wires for each connection on the graphic boxes go over the top of that white acrylic piece. And tuck it behind. Install the graphic boxes until they're all complete and wired. Then go ahead and lift the bottom shelf up and install the metal base. Lift up gently, slide it to the back. The front tabs into the lower shelf. Once that is complete, you're ready to start loading the rest of your product per planogram and install the graphic. If you're doing a 8-foot section, rather, make sure you reinstall the graphic in the front of the display.